Does agentic AI have an ROI problem? Some think it does. Let's talk about it. So welcome back to AI Insights Innovation, one place where you can understand the true application of AI technology for the enterprise. I'm your host, David Linthicum, internationally known AI expert and analyst with theCUBE Research. Let's get to work. So does agentic AI have an ROI problem? Well, the promise of agentic AI has kind of captivated the tech industry right now, yet a growing disconnect exists between vendor promises and practical business value. Despite significant investments and market enthusiasm, organizations are struggling to find compelling use cases that justify the costs and the complexity of agentic AI implementations. So we're running into the thing we normally run into with any kind of a new technology trend. We're like it, we understand it has value in the technology space, but I think some of the businesses are struggling to figure out where it's going to have value for them. And agentic AI is in that place now. So where are we now? Well, early deployments of AI agents have revealed significant limitations in real-world applications. While vendors promote sophisticated capabilities, actual implementations often deliver just basic functionality at a premium price. Many organizations report disappointment with popular platforms like Gemini and Copilot, finding themselves inadequate for enterprise-grade tasks and failing to deliver expected productivity gains. So, in other words, we're moving forward with the technology. Lots of people are trying it, and they're not necessarily getting where the value is going to be. So again, this is looking before you leap for many of the enterprises out there. This is where the cool kids are playing. But now that they're into it, they realize this is pretty expensive, certainly more expensive than traditional application development. And I don't seem to be seeing a ROI. So another thing out there is cloud providers are artificially stimulating the market by offering substantial promotional credits, hoping to create dependency on their AI services. So in other words, the first taste is free, so to speak. This strategy masks the true cost of adoption and creates uncertainty about long-term viability. Organizations are finding that once promotional period ends, the actual operational costs often exceed the measurable benefits. So this is what we see in any kind of new technology industry. So in other words, the cloud providers and also just traditional app dev AI providers are investing in this technology, and they're trying to get the enterprises to adopt it as quickly as they can. And the reality is the gap between when the investment is made and when the market actually appears can be rather long, and they're trying to shorten that gap. So next would be data quality challenges. The foundation of effective AI implementation, quality data remains a critical barrier. Organizations are discovering too late that their existing data infrastructure is inadequate for AI applications. Poor data quality, inconsistent formats, and lack of proper governance are all derailing AI initiatives now before they can demonstrate value. So this is happening with any AI deployment, including generative AI, deep learning systems, machine learning systems, and generative AI is a derivative of machine learning, and now agentic AI. If the data doesn't exist, then there's nothing in the format and the quality that it needs to exist. It can't be used for training data. And if it can't be used for training data, then it has no way of presenting value back to the business. And so they're going to have to fix their data first. And in many enterprises, they feel that's a daunting proposition. It's going to take many years to do. And they're a bit scared of it. So they're not necessarily moving into AI for those reasons. Therefore, they're not seeing the value come back. So next would be infrastructure cost considerations. The capital requirements for AI infrastructure is staggering, with major tech companies investing hundreds of billions of dollars. These costs inevitably trickle down to end users, creating a significant barrier to entry for many organizations. The question remains whether these investments can be justified by current or near-term business applications. So what's the market reality versus expectations? A significant gap exists between vendor marketing and market reality. While providers claim overwhelming demand for AI services, practitioners report limited practical applications. This disconnect suggests a potentially speculative market condition rather than sustainable business value. So the marketing machines are out way ahead of the demand. Now, of course, marketing machines are trying to stimulate demand and create demand, But if there's no good ROI there that the business see, then there's not necessarily going to be projects to follow up with that demand. So in other words, the hype is on. If you look at it on Agentic AI, everybody's talking about it. But as far as businesses are able to find killer applications for it, we don't seem to see that as much. And I think that the marketing machines are spinning up even further and trying to promote use of this technology. And I don't think the businesses are prepared to use it. Now, maybe 2026, 2027, yes, but I do think there's going to be a long ramp up for this. Of course, we have implementation hurdles. Organizations face numerous technical and operational challenges in deploying agentic AI. These include extensive data preparation requirements, security concerns, and limited training capacity. The complexity of integration with existing systems often results in extended implementation timelines and higher costs. So you get into the reality in deploying these projects. I worked with clients over many, many years in trying to make these things work. They're much more complex, much more far-reaching than I think the businesses initially scoped. And so I think in many cases, the enterprises are finding the reality there, and they're balking at some of the opportunities to move to agentic AI because they kind of view it as too much trouble, but basically too much cost and too much risk. So what's the future outlook for success with agentic AI? Well, it's going to require better alignment between technological capabilities and business objectives. Organizations need to focus on specific high-value use cases rather than broad implementations. The technology must evolve to provide more predictable costs and clearer ROI metrics. So we need to get better at figuring out what the applications are going to be for this technology and how to determine the ROI. Obviously, there's strategic value in leveraging most AI systems, including agentic AI. I think right now that enterprises don't know enough about it. They're only learning about it from the particular vendor pitches that they're seeing, and those are going to be skewed toward how that vendor is approaching agentic AI, even how they define it. Obviously, people have different definitions of it and implement different technologies to align themselves to the agentic AI craze. And so they're feeling a bit frustrated now. There doesn't seem to be a single source of truth in terms of technical leadership. You have influencers like myself and other thought leadership out there are getting some traction, but not as much traction as the $20+ billion marketing budgets that are chasing the agentic AI market now. So obviously that's where the disconnect occurs. So what do I recommend for businesses? A more measured approach to AI adoption is needed. Focus on human-in-the-loop applications rather than fully autonomous systems. Organizations should start with well-defined, limited scope projects that can demonstrate clear value before expanding to more ambitious implementations. So lots of organizations out there are trying to take the moonshot and get the big honkin' agentic AI application out and knock it out of the park. They're just being way too ambitious for the skills they have in-house and even for the capabilities of the technologies. So many of the technology providers, including the cloud providers, are pushing their ability to build and deploy agentic AI systems kind of out of the gate. Their technology is still being modified and improved as well. And so agentic AI, by the way, is nothing new. It's been around for a long period of time in building AI agents. However, some of the new capabilities that are being defined, the ability to deal with multi-agent systems and the ability to deal with very complex heterogeneity, running agents on different platforms, is something that's a bit of a tough putt for many enterprises and even the vendors that are out there. And I think we're realizing those limitations now. So what's the path forward? The increasing complexity of business operations makes some form of AI adoption inevitable. However, organizations must balance the promise of automation with practical considerations of cost, complexity, and value. Success will require careful planning, realistic expectations, and a clear focus on business outcomes rather than technical capabilities. So this becomes more advice around using your common sense. And so we're not going to use this technology unless it's able to have a demonstrated business value. It would be crazy to do that. We're taking too much risk and cost in building these things. I think right now, probably for the next year and a half, the enterprises need to get much smarter in terms of how this technology is deployed. So send folks out for training in terms of what agentic AI is and how to do agentic AI architecture. Of course, the bad news there is there's not a lot of training infrastructure available, and some of the stuff that's out there is, rather spurious in terms of how they're able to approach the topic. I have training on LinkedIn Learning on agentic AI and other folks as well, but it's going to take a collection of courses and an understanding of the core architecture and perhaps some mentoring that needs to occur in order for these enterprises to get these things right. That's just the reality of it. So that's all I have for this week. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also check out our other videos here and check out my colleagues at theCUBE Research. We have some great content here. And don't forget to check out my InfoWorld blog. I post there twice a week. And until next time, you guys stay very safe. Cheers.